Hello, 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 everybody. A real loud hello from Egbembiwan Munjimbo coming to you on Vosa World Radio as usual. And then, of course, it's going to be on YouTube as like you know later on. I'm excited to be on this particular show, to have this show going today because I have three other charming ladies here with me who have a lot to say. Far more than I could ever say. I could not be more grateful to them for agreeing to come and be on this panel to talk about a very sensitive, still taboo issue that shouldn't be because of how rampant it is. But before we go into those specifics, I'll go ahead, and I know it's different for everybody, so I'm going to do my own clockwise and start for the person who has a doctor in front of her name, and let her go ahead and introduce herself. Who are you in a nutshell?
Wow, this Igwe. That doctor frightened me, herself, but thank you for the invitation and thank you for having me here. I am Dr. Lizzie Bronte. I work as an IT delivery manager, but my passion is activism against domestic abuse and human trafficking, something people don't talk about a lot. I started my nonprofit foundation in 2018 after going out and sharing my story with secrets, my story of abuse. From that moment, I realized there was a lot I needed to do. And I haven't stopped. I will not stop because, as you mentioned, abuse is that taboo topic. But what people don't realize is abuse is universal. It doesn't know race. It doesn't discriminate on age or beauty or economic status, social status. Anybody can become a victim of abuse. So what I spend most of my time doing is raising awareness on what abuse is, what are the impacts, asking people, do you realize that your child could become a victim of abuse? And if that's a slim possibility, what are you doing about raising awareness? So thank you very much. That's my introduction. Let's go.
You're very welcome to the show. And since I was going clockwise, then I'm going to go. And you're coming to us from the United States. What city in particular?
Columbus, Ohio.
There you go. Now I'm going to go to somebody who actually is not even in the United States of America. And her name says Dorothy simply there. I'm going to go ahead and ask her to also introduce herself to us, tell us who she is in a nutshell as well.
Thank you, Sister Egbe. I'll join Lizzie and just say Sister Egbe because we have that sense of respect. So thank you so much for having me on your show. Dorothy Fohtung is my name. I live in Germany, in the south of Germany. I've lived in Germany for close to 20 years. What I do is I'm a communicator. My background is journalism and mass communications, and I have made my profession in communications. I had a team in marketing and communications in Germany, and it's a global team for a very renowned organization. But what brings me here today is my activism, my I would call it my purpose, because I find that is my purpose, and which is to enlighten people about the other side of abuse that no one talks about, and which is the silent killer. I say emotional abuse is the silent killer. And why I call it the silent killer, we will talk about that during our talks. But I just want to say why I call it the silent killer is because it is very insidious, and it is hard, for anyone to actually put a finger on it.
To spot it.
Yes, but it happens, and it is so awful to anyone who's experienced it. And it usually happens because we all have emotions, right? So I have spent my time for the past 5 years learning about what happened to me personally, what I experienced personally. And it's been eye-opening, and I don't shut up about it because I want the world to know, you know, and I want everybody, woman, man, children, parents, to know about the ills of emotional abuse.
I cannot thank you more for accepting to come and be on this show, because that, as you have already said, some people don't even recognize it as abuse. For most people who even agree that it's abuse, they think it's only slap, beat, hit, where you can see scars, like visible. You put a big old band-aid, put a big old POP on your hand, go on crutches. That is the abuse. And they don't understand that what they say, their words, the things that you can act a certain way, that hurts. And then we have things like sticks and stones may break my bones and words don't do blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, forget it, please. All right. Welcome to the show. We have, last but not least there, I call her Miss K. So please go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers.
Thank you, Sister Egbe, for having me on this show. I'm really honored to be here with Lizzie and Dorothy, who I'm meeting for the first time. It is indeed an honor. And I say that it's an honor because you two are more esteemed in this space. I am, like Lizzie, in technology. That's where I do, I earn my living. But domestic violence is a topic that's dear to me as a child that witnessed it growing up. And as a consequence, I have what my friends say I'm a domestic violence police, just because anytime or most times, if that topic comes up, I would say something. I think there's a lot of subtle things that we talk about and we normalized that would fit into maybe even the emotional abuse category, maybe like in different categories, meaning it's not just about somebody hitting someone, right? That is abusive. And like one of them I've talked about recently is neglect. Sometimes that's one where we would not consider to be abused, but it is abusive, and little things like that, the impact on the people who are watching, because you have the person who is actually going through it, but it does impact those who are watching, like the kids, sometimes the elderly parents who may be in the home and things like that. So to me, abuse is something I think as a community, if we talk about it more, we can know what the signs are. We as women can raise kids that are more abuse aware and abuse aware enough to not be abusive, to check ourselves when we are the abuser, and things like that. So it's just a topic that's dear to my heart. I don't have nearly the credentials of my esteemed colleagues here, but I am really honored to be in your company to discuss this, because it is indeed a topic extremely dear to my heart.
You're very welcome. And this time I'm not going to recluse myself and say I'm playing moderator. I'm going to be talking myself, in fact, which is what I have to do. Well, I'm the teacher person she just mentioned. That stuff you're doing at home there, mommy and papa people are doing at home there, the kids, I see them when they come to school and put their head down and cry. And then when you call them, they don't want to go to lunch. When you call them and ask them what's going on, they're like, look, my father and my stepmother were at it again today. The police were called and blah, blah. So that stuff you're doing there, you think you're just settling scores between the two of you. It's affecting your kid who's sitting there and not wanting to learn, who's an emotional wreck at school. So that's the part that I observe exactly what it is that people are saying. And I watch in the hallways as they're going down. This guy really pushes the girl. And I can shut up too, just like her, she said. I'm like, why did you just do that? And the kids looking like me like, none of your business. I'm like, oh, it's going to be my business very soon if you don't start, those kinds of things. So we are hoping, our aim here is hoping to raise awareness so that if you see it, if you have those tendencies, because some people have, as she said, normalized it or seen it so often that it's like, what do I do? Like they're very surprised that you're saying anything's wrong with what I did. Some who think I'm just disciplining my wife. And I'm like, what is she? She had to do, I just had to point of order, point of correction. I'm like, so there's some things where the person is really, really seriously not even aware that what they're doing constitutes abuse. So welcome again, and let's go now. The first thing I'd like us to talk about is how to even spot it, how to even identify it. so that people can know that the telltale signs that somebody in a relationship should see and say, from the very beginning, and run 990 out of the thing. I'll go in the same order that we began with, and I'll start with Dr. Lizzie.
Yeah, besides, Sister Egbe, besides physical abuse, the other types of abuse are hard to detect from the outside, right? And most people who experience physical abuse act very normal, unless there's a scar that you can see. But my experience on the field opened my eyes to many things that a normal person would never think about. I'll give you examples. If you find that this Lizzie that you know is by nature very bubbly, always the life of the party, right? Coming in, hey, Sister Egwe, how far? On the dance floor, popping champagne, and Lizzie starts dating. People mature when they date, but there's a sudden change in the fundamentals of her character. Something is not right. Somebody is pulling the strings behind her, telling her, don't wear jeans, don't wear mini skirts. When you go to that party, I don't want you saying hi to all your male friends. Sit there, don't look at anybody in the eye. Or sometimes you will meet them in parking lots, arguing and fighting right after the event. Why you oversalute that man so? You know that man for outside, then you start explaining. When you're caught up in a situation like that, there are two things you can do. You can either fight back or you can be subdued. 99% of the time, because of the culture where you don't want people to think, now you did jump from one marriage to another, you're going to sit tight and deal with it. Sometimes it may be your mother or your father saying, no, bring shame for family. You're going to sit tight and deal with it. And sometimes it may just be you wants to be married, like all your classmates, all your friends. You too want to be Mrs. Somebody. You're going to deal with it. So when you decide to live that life without telling anyone, conforming to the societal expectations, you're thereby killing yourself slowly and easily, and just allowing somebody to control how soon you will die.
It's just as dire and clear as she said it there, because people have lost their lives. This is not a joke. We all heard about the Cameroonian lady who was just shot, or killed by a boyfriend like that, and we were always stunned. It's happening more and more, because sometimes we used to say it is this Oyibo thing, you know, they are the role with the, and then more and more it's happening in our communities, and we are seeing, and it used to happen in Africa too, but then people pushed it down, give a different reason for the demise of the person. Look at the whole thing. I don't know what the verdict ended up being. The thing with Ekueme, that lady that used to sing, the Nigerian artist that had till now, when they say, okay, no, it was cancer she had, it was this and that, but see how much masking was done of the thing out there in the church, doing all of this stuff to her public figure, and what we're finding out afterwards. So, in my own personal opinion, it doesn't matter that even if it ended up being that you did the whole forensics and did the whole autopsy, and it wasn't really that, the fact is she was abused still. She was abused still, and that was a miserable life to live, where you stand and you sing, and then they make you walk home, just despicable things that should not be. I'm going to turn things over now to Dorothy, just to ask what your own take on this is.
Sister Egbe, let me give you a definition of emotional abuse that I have used in all of my talks. You know, and I'm hoping that with this definition, it would enlighten people on what emotional abuse is. Because emotions, you know, we all have emotions, right? Every single one of us has emotions. And we talked about wounds, you know, the physical wounds. You can heal them.
Right.
But guess what? When you hurt emotionally, how do you heal yourself? The wounds that you don't see are the hardest to heal. That is just the reality. So my definition of emotional abuse is that it is a non-physical abuse, right? And it is designed in a way that it has control, it has to subdue people, it has to punish people, and in many cases, right, isolate people using fear or humiliation. Emotional abuse can include verbal assault, right? It can include dominance, it can include control, it can include ridicule, it can include the usage of intimate knowledge to degrade people. It targets your emotions and your psychological well-being. You know, so we're talking about emotional abuse here, and we're talking about physical abuse. Guess what? Emotional abuse is a precursor of physical abuse. There's a high correlation between emotional abuse and physical abuse. And we've said this, and I will say it time and time again, it's a hard thing to recognize. It is subtle, it is insidious, it is normalized in our culture. You know, we grew up in a place where a man can tell his wife, shut up, when people they talk, not talk for you. You know,
in public, eh? Public.
And you're like, okay, that's normal. That's a normal way to talk to your wife. It's not. It's not. You know. So I have talked about emotional abuse so much that I think that on the other side of emotional abuse is what happens to this person. So the person who's being abused, the victim, what happens to them? You know, it erodes their self-worth. Really, it erodes your self-worth. Imagine if someone is constantly criticizing you, someone is constantly denying your reality. That's what we call gaslighting. You know, someone is calling you names, someone is constantly verbally abusing you, someone is refusing to participate in relationships. You have people who are in relationships and the man or the woman refuses to participate in the relationship. That's emotional abuse.
If it was the silent treatment.
Exactly. That is the silent treatment, you know. And then you have also people who would be like, I need to shame and blame this person.
Right, right.
I need to shame and blame this person. There's also the withholding of affection. You know, I don't want to participate in this with this person in any way, shape, or form. So I will withhold affection and I will only talk to this person in anger. Guess what happens? That person is constantly walking on eggshells.
Right.
Constantly. We have our brains are trained in a way that we have the flight, the fright, the freeze, the fawn, you know all of that. Now, if you're constantly walking on eggshells, guess what? It's like, you know, what happens to your brain and to the hormones in you is that you feel like someone is hunting after you. Like there's an animal coming out of the bush to hunt after you, right? So your emotions are constantly on hype. They are constantly on hype. And meaning that every time this person comes to you and says, oh, my darling, guess what? You start bowing because this person has eroded your self-worth in a way that you scramble for the crumbs.
Right.
And we see that a lot in so many relationships.
Yep. And we are naturally, as human beings, designed to want to please. Who doesn't want to please?
Exactly.
Somebody? So if you see that this little thing is not trying to make it easier, this got a smile from them, then you try to do what it is that they are asking you to do.
Exactly.
It's an amazing thing what you say there. And just to point out, it's not even only in relationships like that. I've said it, look at what we used to do that we thought was okay, or what teachers used to do for what we thought was okay back in the day. They read the scores that everybody made in the exam, the test.
That's shaming and blaming.
Oh my God. So now from 20 out of 20, they don't reach now for 10 out of 10, 10 out of 20, they don't reach for 3. And then the last is, they call your name. How are you going to feel? Then Then also shame, also
Shame.
shame. Those are the things that I'm like, oh Lord, you cannot, the kid, okay, we laugh and everybody goes home, but that kid.
Sister Egbe, I'm telling you, wherever there is an emotion, wherever there is, be it between a parent and a child, be it between co-workers, be it between teachers, you know, there's so much abuse happening even in schools, you know. So when we talk about relationships in emotional abuse, please, we need to talk about in relationships in general. But what happens mostly is when you have this level of intimacy.
Correct.
When you have that level of intimacy where that person can harm you emotionally, someone on the street can talk to you, you know, you talk back. You talk back and walk, and it might bother you, but you're like, what the heck? But if you know that you're in a constant relationship with that person, if that's someone you're constantly seeing, if it's your class teacher for a year, that class teacher has the possibility to abuse you emotionally. If it's your classmate, that's why bullying, you know, is so corrosive in our in our school cultures, you know. So honestly, emotional abuse is something that we have to learn to identify, and we have to hold space for it, right? Hold space by saying, this is wrong. And I'm saying this, I want to say this right at the beginning, because there's always like, you know, when you think about a perpetrator, you think about someone with horns, someone who is ugly, you know, angry. Guess what? The abusers and the perpetrators are your brothers, your sisters, your aunties, your uncles. You know, when someone tells you, right, that I'm being abused emotionally, please believe them.
Right. And if by any chance it's you that they're telling that you are doing that thing, to really sit down and take your time and examine what it is that you're doing and see how it affects them. Because sometimes perceptions are also part of the whole thing. Because you can say, I've seen the case where you say, but that's not how I meant it. It does not matter how you meant it. How I felt it is what the issue is. So you can say, you're giving me the finger and saying, oh no, that's just the finger. It's a big deal for me. And so it does not matter that it is not the thing, a big thing for you. The person you're doing it to says it is a big deal. Respect that and try not to do it again. You know, on purpose. Ms. K, what do you have to say about this whole thing? What you observe, how to spot these things, or what you see as treacherous behavior that we should all watch out for?
I agree with both Dorothy and Lizzie here, because the real challenge with domestic violence, domestic abuse, is that the abuser usually is very smart. So this is one of those things where you would have to, where you, the victim, are the only witness to what the abuser is doing. And that's why it makes it really difficult sometimes to spot it. But there are some things which we can talk about. So some of them, I think Dorothy just mentioned walking on eggshells, right? Or Lizzie talked about the person's personality has changed. So those are real things that you can see. If you see someone who, they are basically afraid of their partner. Oh no, I beg you. You're asking them something simple. I get to ask me first. I get to ask, like they're scared of their partner. They everything they have to do, they cannot make decisions by themselves. Every decision they have to make, even little what you consider benign spending decisions.
Right.
Oh, I want to buy candy. Oh, I have to check in first. If you see someone, they're constantly, they cannot focus and just be in the moment and interact with you, because they're constantly needing to report to their partner as to their whereabouts and what they are doing. Those are little subtle signs to show that that person is being controlled, as it were, right? So it's really, when you see somebody just not being able to be, and then of course the belittling that we all witness time and again, like the shut up, or what are you doing here? So that day for you, man picking the shidong, you too shidong.
Right.
you know, those type of things, the shaming in public, the distancing. I said, if you love someone, before you met them, there is some total of their experiences and the relationships that they've had. But if you meeting them and being with them requires that they cut off everybody else, something is very wrong. You know, in our community, we actually think it is a good thing. Oh, no, I see not married to age, I get to cut off everybody. Oh, hell no. If you are in a relationship and being in that relationship requires that you sever all your other relationships, run. Run. If you're with someone, and even little things that we see, we all crave attention. We all wear a sign on our head that says, see me, appreciate me. So it's very seductive when you meet someone and they're like, they're so concerned about how you dress, how you eat, what you do. You think it's love because of that attention, but it's not. You were already a fully functioning adult capable of dressing yourself and taking care of yourself before you met them. But all of a sudden, because you've met them, now which kind of clothes that? How you dress so? Is so. Wear a red lipstick, put a pink, you know. And it doesn't matter what you do, there's something wrong. You find yourself always apologizing. If you see your friend, they're always apologizing to their spouse, something is wrong. You cannot always be apologizing to someone. Something is off there. If you're always you're almost always guilty of something wrong. Your way of doing, there's always something wrong with it. There's something wrong with your family members. There's something wrong with your friends. Then maybe that's not a good place for you. It doesn't matter who's perpetuating it. It could be, most oftentimes it's the woman who's the victim here, and that's just because of the way of the other imbalances in our communities with the patriarchy and all of that. But there are also men who suffer the same fate. So anytime you see these imbalances, you see we can observe control, we can understand control.
Right.
And our community makes
to the male person, campus we go, campus.
Yes.
And he campus for real.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
So they're being spoken to without the respect of a partner, because they will not tell, if they're with their boss somewhere and they need to go, they're not going to say it in that manner. Okay. So it means that they are, regardless of the sex of their boss, they're not going to say it in that manner. So which means they do understand what it means to be in a respectful, mutually respectful relationship.
Yes.
But they choose to dominate and control you, and they talk down to you and they belittle you. Big difference. So those are the little subtle, some of the subtle signs that we can see, and that can tell us this doesn't look. And oftentimes, to be honest, in our community, oftentimes we know.
Yes.
Most of the time, when they say, when the news comes out that this was happening, people will come, where it don't reach that stage, we be no say where. That's what we do.
Right.
Which means we saw it. We thought it was a little off, but you know, the community we have, no man not talk me anything, but the way that thing look, yeah, I be seeing them the other day. You see how that man draggy you. We've seen those things. You're walking somewhere into a party, the man just is pulling. See, I'm hyper aware of those things, so I pay attention. You just see somebody, they're wearing a scarf, and then their spouse just pinches their outfit, just like when he's dragging them to the side where they're trying to go off in the direction or greet people, or they happen. People, that observant people in our community who actually catch these things. So we see them happening all around us. We see people talking down to others. It's not right. Okay, it's not right. We're all human beings deserving of respect, of being treated with respect. And if we put that in our minds that we're all deserving of respect, there's no need to talk to someone, to want to control someone. First of all, there's no need. You're not a controller. It's not your job to be controlling somebody else. You want to talk to people with respect. If we have that in our mindset, it will help us put these things that we've come to normalize and say, okay, this is not right, and then speak up or act the way we're supposed to act to help prevent it from happening or getting to, getting worse, right? Because oftentimes it starts with the little things. Before somebody starts hitting you repeatedly, they have tried to deconstruct you mentally. That's the hitting and the physical violence usually comes when we're way down the road. They start off with the little ultimatums here and there. If you're in a relationship and or if you're even talking with your friend and all the time, if I just do this thing, man go do so, or my wife will. Everything is an ultimatum. That's a red flag.
Yeah.
Why is everything an ultimatum? What kind of life are you living, really?
Yeah.
And
So these are just some of the things. Yeah.
Yeah, as a speaking there, let us just make sure that we know that our teenagers, because it's not only like a grown thing, because they are the ones who are very likely to mistake what you're saying there for love. Hey, just loves me so much, he doesn't want me out of his sight.
Yeah.
He wants to say he got this for me. He says I should not go to the party. He wants me all to himself. And you're thinking, oh, boo. No, that's not the boo, nothing. That's the all the signs she's talking about there are little teenagers who may be listening, are younger girls. Those red flags are for you as well. Lizzie was raising her hand to add something to add to it.
Yes, I wanted to add to what Ms. K said about how abuse begins, but I also want to say perpetrators, male or females, are very smart. They know how to act in front of people.
Yes.
And they know how to fool you, so you believe they're the best. I remember in my situation, someone told me, if this relationship failed, now you cause them. Without knowing exactly what I was going through in that moment. And I actually believed them.
Yes.
Because I said, you know what? If they say that, it means maybe I just be problematic when I'm in the end relationships, right? But I also know a guy who told me, he said, if a woman raises her voice at me or talks to me disrespectfully, that relationship ends. And I asked him why. He said, well, because it starts with that, and the next thing, she will slap you. And I said, well, are you sure you will treat her the way you expect her to treat you? He says, yes. I will never raise my voice on a woman. I will never raise my hand. I will treat her with respect and love. And if she cannot give me that, we cannot be in a relationship. And that is my expectation for everybody else. Because Sister Egbert, to your point, these teenagers, they watch their parents or their guardians. They accept it because they think it's right. Because someone who's raising them is accepting it.
Right.
So if mom and dad are always fighting, if mom and dad are giving silent treatment, they're not talking to each other, but they're together for 20 years. Every year they're celebrating anniversaries and anniversaries. You're telling these young girls that listen, or boys that listen, it's okay. It's okay to stay in a relationship that is not working.
You start to refer to the girl the man who's complaining. It is say be princess, it is say be who, because the person is saying no, this is not right. They're like, oh, they paint you into this picture of a person who thinks that they are all that for expecting to be treated respectfully. Yeah, that has to do a lot with our community and the kind of standards that we have set. And as you're saying there, what our mothers kind of put up with, you two should come and put up with the same thing. And whereas first of all, that's even a different thing to debunk, because I'm the oldest of you all here, so I can tell you what it's that kind of look now that they used to say. They've forgotten too that it was wrong, but there's a reason some of those mummies put up with the thing. They were not educated. Then I want to say, okay, now because you don't get PhD now, that's not the thing. It's the matter. That's why even that mummy did feel bad, wasn't happy, but she sat there and said, if I go, where am I going to?
Yes.
What's going to happen to my children? Who will educate them? So now you've seen that same mommy emancipate Maria Mash has become, now that she's not raising the kids and she does not care, give a hoot. What you say, you don't have that hold over her, that sway over her anymore. This is mommy here in the States wearing hampang and going to every party. I don't know who did not see that video that they showed with a man turning fufu on a stove.
Yes.
Poor pa, he's now all by himself here now in the thing, turning his fufu. Mommy has gone her to America and is with her children. Mommy didn't have that opportunity to go. She would have gone even sooner. That's what they're saying. And then they say, and it could be the reverse, because we keep talking about it's just that it's the more dominant thing, but it could be the reverse. Lizzie was going to say something.
I wanted to add to that as well. And here's where I caution men. when Miss K talked about neglect, you can just be a father who pays the school fees, but you do not connect with your children emotionally. And that mommy is there enduring all the abuse, the insult, physical, emotional, and financial abuse. She's raising her children the best way she can. These children are watching. The moment they become adults, they can fend for themselves. Guess where all the attention goes? To their mother. Now they're trying to make up for all the suffering, for all the time spent raising. And you, the father, you say, oh, Mama not turn picking against me. No, you turned yourself against your children for so many years. You were paying the school fees, but that's not enough.
Right.
It requires intentional involvement. It requires conversations. It requires protecting them. And I say, how do you protect your children? By doing the right things. They watch you.
Right.
Yes.
So,
let me thank you so much. Let me go in order, because Dorothy had raised the hand up just
yes. So I am dying to say this, you know, and I always say this. Our African cultures and conditioning, right, exacerbate emotional abuse. Why do I say that? Guess what? If you grow up in a traditional home, Cameroonian home, all we know Cameroonians over here, right? Guess what? The guys get treated differently than the girls. They teach the guys to have a certain level of superiority, grandiosity, and they teach the girls to be meek and humble. Guess how that translates into relationships?
The obvious.
The guy is superior. The guy grows up to be superior. We're told, marriage had to tie hat. They were told, the guys are told, if the woman not fit you, and even the mommy go tell you, say, I go bring number 2 woman for house. But they will tell the girl, sit down, shut your mouth. This guy don't. I know situations where I was personally told someone was doing me a favor by getting married to me. Dorothy, look at me. Someone was doing me a favor by getting married to me. You know, and guess what that translates into? You shut up, you lose yourself. When you become a Mrs. Somebody, you are supposed to lose yourself. You are supposed to adapt a personality that is really aligned to that person, your husband's dreams, aspirations, and you're supposed to forget yourself. And what that does to every woman, if you're not fighting, is that you lose yourself. And when we talk about these mommies, you know, finding themselves in their 60s, guess what? It is because their kids have started validating them. It's because their kids have started validating them. They've been traumatized for more than 40 years because they got married at the age of 18 in most cases. You know, for over 42 years, they've been traumatized. They've lost themselves. They've lost themselves to their marriages. They've lost themselves to their children. They've lost themselves to their community. And when the children start validating them, guess what? They start blossoming.
Let's go to a party and see some grandma there. You're like, oh yeah, grandma's shoulders have been squared out that she's strutting. Before they want even play pim of one song. Grandma
you don't have a flow, that's right.
Sorry, but I tell you know what? I'm wondering what's going on here.
I just want to say something. I want to speak to what Miss K said. Miss K talked about people not talking to their bosses in a certain way, but we should not forget there is a lot of intentionality in abuse. It is intentional. I have been in situations, in my personal case, you know, I would be at home, silent treatment for 2-3 weeks, 4 weeks. But the moment somebody rings the bell, baby, This person is here. Can you bring them a glass of wine? Oh, my wife is amazing. And then once the door closes,
The face just straight.
back to silent treatment. So there's a lot of, we shouldn't forget that, you know, there is an intentionality, and the intentionality is born out of the need to dominate and control.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
so.
Now, there's something I wanted to add to this. When we were talking about our parents, right? The mommy, especially the mothers, you see them blossoming after some time. Sometimes it doesn't work out that well, because kids end up treating their parent the way they saw the other parent being treated. So let's look at the way we grew up. In most homes in Cameroon, everything was about Papa. Papa, he chop. Papa, he this. Papa, he that. The mommy would cook food. The best food will not be for the children who are growing. It will be for Papa.
Right.
The choicest meat. Maybe mommy did not have enough to even buy proper meat. All that meat would be for Papa, Papa's plate. So it's about taking care of Papa's needs. And sometimes, unfortunately, for some of those mummies, the kids grow up, and even the mummy has spent her whole life, she was not allowed to work. She was not allowed to do anything. So even if they're educated, they're not, if you even make the mistake of working, your salary has to come to Papa's account. Papa is controlling your finances. But the kids, in their mind, everything, even when the parents have grown up, is still about Papa.
Right.
So you would see, they will be sitting there, these are adult kids, their parents are visiting. It's still all about Papa. It's so normal for mommy to be neglected. That mommy may not be well dressed. Mommy may not look nice. You're leaving the house with mommy. You are very well dressed head to toe, you the child. Your mother is not. But it doesn't occur. You've normalized it because that's what you saw growing up. Your mind understands. You're going to visit your parents. You are particular about what you're taking for Papa, because Papa, things have to be the best. That's what you saw growing up. But for mommy, anything would do. Right. Because that's what you saw growing up. So you, in your mind, even though you know your mother sacrificed a lot for you and whatnot, you've normalized your
view of each person has stayed compartmentalized that way.
Exactly.
Doesn't deserve anything.
And that's the reality for some of those our parents, right?
Called flying monkeys, you know, in psychological terms, it's called flying monkeys. And I Miss K, sorry for interrupting here. I just want to make this point. Most of the time we talk about narcissism as if it's something which is so foreign, so far-fetched. It exists within our culture. I can assure you that narcissism resides within the African culture. It's like 5 and 6.
But please define it, because there are some people who have listened to you say narcissism and they still don't know what that is. You say, it all talks on big grammar. What is it to be narcissistic? What is it? Some people are sitting down there and they go over their heads, because that big thing we call them, so me, I'm not be narcissistic person. So what is it?
So people always ask themselves, like, what is narcissism? So there's a difference between narcissism and narcissistic personal disorder. So when you say someone is narcissistic, that is someone who has, you know, a real huge feeling of grandiosity, a self-concept of superiority. That those people who have this obsessive delusion of themselves, you know, who are filled with self-admiration.
We used to call them, say, pomposity.
Yeah, we used to pompous, but pompous is just one part, you know. But
yes,
yeah, it's just one part. They have, you know, like these people have a huge sense of entitlement. You know, these are people who would really consume you because they, you know, we are all narcissistic.
To a certain extent, yes.
Yeah, we're all narcissistic. So when a child is born, a child is narcissistic because a child sees the mother as an extension of self. That's why a child would see the mother eating something and open their mouth. If because you are me, you know, and the child sees the mother as, or the parent, whichever parent is close to them, as someone who is going to make their wishes, their desires come true. Now, as this child grows into themselves, gets into socialization, gets emotional growth, this child becomes an individual and learns that other people are individuals. They do not have to do my biddings. A narcissistic person sees everyone around them as an extension of self. I use you to achieve my biddings. I use you to achieve my wishes. So enter an intimate relationship with a narcissistic person. What this person sees in you, you are an extension of myself. Meaning, if you go out with that dress, you're a false representation of me. So I want you to dress and hide yourself. If I talk to you and you talk back to me in a way that, you know, makes me feel belittled, you know, like, why are you talking back to me? It's because you are holding a mirror and I'm looking into myself, and that's not an image I want to see about myself. I want to see myself great, grand, you know, because they have this delusional self-image. You know,
that's to feed their ego. Just feed.
So, and that is why they call people who are going through any narcissistic abuse, they are supplies. They call you a supply in psychological terms, because you supply their narcissistic needs. And when you kind of defer from this supply, you wound a narcissistic person. And a narcissistic wound, what does it translate into? It translates into violence. It translates into verbal abuse. It translates into a narcissistic person is someone who's, I want to quote Brené Brown, and I think most people know Dr. Brené Brown. She's amazing. She talks about, you know, vulnerability. She talks about emotions, and I love her so much. Everyone has to research Brené Brown and, you know, read at least 2 or 3 of her books, you know. And she says her own definition of narcissism is that narcissism is born out of shame. Narcissism is continuous shame. Continuous shame. And you can imagine someone who grows up in continuous shame. What happens to them? Like the child that they shamed in school, what happens? That child grows to be a bully.
Correct. And that was where I was going to go to next with this whole discussion. What is the cause, the root cause of this kind of behavior? Why are these people like this? And you know, sometimes people say, if you say that, then you're going to be excusing them. Not quite that one is trying to excuse the behavior that they're doing. The behavior is wrong for sure, but sometimes we can say where the person is coming from that made them this, and then that helps us now, those of us who are raising them, those of us who are teaching them, those of us who are in a relationship with them, to point this out, to see it and understand where they're coming from, but not try to not to enable it or put up with it, but to try to say, no, it doesn't work like this. Because most of the time, you see people who hurt have been hurt themselves. They're lashing out and they're doing all that kind of stuff. That's where it comes, not to excuse it, but to understand. So what you just said there reminded me of the idea of, why does this even exist? Why do we have this kind of a thing? You talked about somebody who has been shamed. We've talked about the culture, where that is how it's supposed to, that's how it just is. That's how it is. And we forget that the person who's grown up in that thing, 2 things happen that I've seen. Some say that was a bad experience. And they swear I will never then do that to my wife. My wife is not going to have to put up with that kind of a thing. You have that group. Then you have the ones who are so ready to do the exact same thing and are shocked and so upset with you trying to do something different. They say that will ever happen for a house. So my papa will always chop. If we get a pan, Papa had his own dish. We get a pan. He should not eat one for table. So pan and eat. Mommy, then they pass up and till Papa has eaten, you know. Then they're there in the kitchen, sit what you can eat. And then you see a grown man now, college degree and all, expecting the same. I'm like, no, we went and bought this furniture over here in this place. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chairs. this is your chair here, this is my own over there, baby, children here and children here to sit, we're going to eat in the same, on the same table. And they're not getting that. And then there's this subtle thing, what's that saying? Now you're not following tradition. Sometimes they bring religion in, or you're not being submissive. So talking about those things that make you, and then you begin to feel guilty that maybe you're this Cinderella, mommy Cinderella who thinks it's all that. So you're like, okay, let me go ahead and eat in the kitchen after Papa has eaten. Let me go ahead and do this before they can't talk, say, this oversabi one because he goes school. That's the reason why they're doing that kind of a thing. So I think we need to discuss, yes, go ahead and chime in.
I want to, before we talk about why or where this comes from, there are 3 types of abuse that we really don't talk much about. The emotional abuse is starting to take center stage, which is a good thing. Now people are starting to raise a lot of awareness, but there's financial abuse that happens in the homes, especially in the diaspora. There is use of children, abuse partners, where a woman or a man really knows that if I just prevent him from seeing his children, it's going to hurt him so much. Now I can tell him when and how and what I want from him, because I can use the children.
As leverage.
There's also immigration abuse, because everybody needs papers. There are people who hide your green card. They will even threaten to call immigration on you if you don't have papers. They will use that to control you and keep you in the same spot. And many times you find women or men stuck in these relationships. And I will ask, but why are you accepting all of these behaviors, right? They impact you negatively. Why are you there? And most often you will hear either ego use picking them against me, or it don't talk say if I play ego call immigration, if ego talk say I be live from an asylum story. And so now you don't know what could happen.
Yes.
And you stay there. So I wanted us to make sure that we call those out, because there are people in our community who are dealing with these issues. They just don't know what to do.
Yes.
And okay, please go on first.
And Lizzie, there's something that we really shouldn't forget, especially for those of us in the diaspora. You know, when we get here, right, there is a lot that you have to get used to. You have left your country of origin. You have left your, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I remember when I came to Germany, I could count the amount of Black people in the town I landed. That was 20 years ago. And I can recall when I walked on the street, you know, there's something I have termed the German gaze. The Germans will look at you like, you know, so there is that kind of like, you've been taken out of your comfort zone and thrown into a society that is, one, predominantly Caucasian that you know nothing about. In my case, you have a new language. 3, you have to learn to be independent, because I mean, I was independent. I left Cameroon. I'd already worked as a journalist, and I'd had like two jobs, but I was still hooked to my mother's apron strings. I was 24, you know, and then there is that kind of infantilization that happens. And during that phase,
a vulnerable phase,
that is that is the word. That is such a vulnerable phase in your life. And guess what? That is the phase where most of us meet our spouses. Or that is the phase where most people meet their intimate partners. And so fundamentally, if you fall into the hands of someone who for some reason or some history has these tendencies that we're talking about, guess what?
You
better pray.
In short, in simple pidgin terms, you don't carry your own.
You're doomed.
Yes.
You're doomed. And guess what? We meet people here I mean, you know, like we said, it's a vulnerable stage. So when you meet someone who looks like you, who speaks like you, who comes from the same background, Oh, this is my brother. Oh, this is my sister. Guess what? He's not your brother, he's not your sister.
And the thing is, and if things go sour, what are your options? Because it's a very different thing now. If you've been here 20 years, like you've been, all of us have been here. Hey, I go down there, I know how to ask, I have social security, I have social something, I know who to go, what to do, and everything like see ya, gone. When you're talking about the person that you just described there, where are they going back to? And the little bit of money that they're making is what they're sending back to keep a whole Cartier alive. Then how do you think you want them to upset the person who is the person who's getting them their breadwinning to now say, see ya, you're going where? So
you're
that I'm a Mrs. Tihad, they are doing it here now because you really don't have options.
And you're broken. And even when you have options, you're too wounded and too broken to leave. It takes courage to leave an abusive relationship. It takes courage. I always compare it to you know, like you break yourself and then mold yourself back into someone else. It takes courage to be able to do that. It takes courage. And I do not in any way or form criticize people who are in abusive relationship who stay there. It might be for safety, it might be for financial reasons, it might be for whatever reasons, but we shouldn't forget that they are too broken to leave sometimes, in some cases, and they do not see the light at the end of the tunnel. You know.
Sorry, I would want to interrupt here. For there's something you said about this being broken to leave, right? Personally, I believe that's why I really think in our communities we need to talk about the things, the way we live life that create opportunities for this behavior. Because oftentimes when you're already in that relationship, it's not too late to leave, but it's hard, very hard to leave. So it's usually better if you can see the signs before and then just run away, because it's not going to be good. And some of the things that, like the way our culture even is in many respects, it grooms narcissism in men. And it, I think Dorothy had said this earlier, right? It grooms that in men, and then submissiveness in women. And so by definition, there's a mismatch. You would see they'll groom the young boys. No man, I'd wait for see them, they get to show me girlfriend. But in that same house, they're telling the girls, talk for boy, how dare you? So I'm asking myself, we want our sons to go and have girlfriends, and our daughters to not have boyfriends. So who are they going to be dating? Other boys? You understand? So right there from the get-go, there's a mismatch.
It's a disconnect in there.
There's a very big disconnect. And then we expect the girls, once somebody has just come and they're showing interest in you, most especially if this person has, they're well placed and all of that. You go marry them. You go marry them. We're not even 1 year. We don't already talk.
Yep.
So now you're already coming in with such too much expectations on you meeting that person's needs.
Yes.
Now let's go now to the person, also the men, because for us here in the diaspora, a lot of us, we have the luxury of picking our partners. But even to this day, that's not really, there's still a lot of people who do not really get that luxury to pick their partners. And even if they did, there's the challenge of expectations. Remember, we've raised the men to expect everything to revolve around them. So going into marriage already, they're already talking about what they know, what you are supposed to do for them. Woman is going to be my cook, my cleaner, my house help, and all of that. They already expect
baby
that.
making machine.
Yeah, baby making. So when I was in school, my classmates, schoolmates, boys, there were a few of us girls compared to the boys who were the people of in those days who Cameroon government used to send far away to go study. So there will be, for any batch of, let's say 50 boys, you have maybe less than 20% were usually girls, way less, And we would have these discussions, and the boys would tell us, as when I don't candy book say, no man of him marijuana. Because, so that you remain money, they talk for my head. So already, the grooming is that you have to make sure that your partner is somebody you can control financially, because if you cannot control them, then they will be your equal, they'll be a partner. You don't want a partner, you want somebody you can control.
Subdue.
That mindset is abusive. That mindset in itself is an abusive paradigm. And so if we already see it for what it is, the idea that we would magically just become a loving, balanced relationship when we start off with expectations that are in themselves abusive in nature, it just doesn't, it doesn't work well. It's really hard.
Right.
It's really hard. So
I was maybe it's time to just go ahead and talk about what we see, what the community does in the part it has to play in all of this when it comes to the whole stigma thing, when it comes to the whole what you do, because I'm going to go to you then first, because you actually raised your hand before I was even done with the question. The whole idea of like even the one who wants to do well, Baba, your woman to control you. Even the one who didn't see anything wrong with cooking from time to time for the wife, they're like, they don't take it on boy. They don't. The mommy herself is the one saying that they are taught her son is a boy.
Yeah.
As if I say don't dry be. You know what is I tell you. I mean, the part that we have to play on both sides, that's what I wanted you to address now. Either enabling the thing that you're seeing, they are saying nothing, or instigating the thing and saying, yes, Papa, don't put up with that. So you had your hand up. Please go ahead, Dorothy.
So I want to talk, first of all, about the 5 stages of emotional abuse. So that I can throw some light into what society can do. Now, there is the idealization phase. During this phase, right? I mean, everybody knows about love bombing. This is where you get all of the flowers, all of the sweets, all of the chocolates. This person is creating and establishing an image that would lure you into loving them, you know? And during that phase, right? Individually, we have to be aware. You know, we've normalized going into a relationship and thinking that intimacy is sex. We do not think about intimacy as, how does this person speak to me intellectually? How do I and this person, how would they click? Would they click? That thing where they talk and say chemistry. What is chemistry? Is it not physical? You know, what is it? So during the idealization phase, it's important, it's really critical for us to have our antenna up. And it means that for that to be able to happen, we have to educate our children, boy, girl, dog, really educate them. Create self-awareness. Validate your children. We have to groom our children to be human before being a woman or a man. You know, that is our obligation as parents, all of us who have parental obligations. Now, the second phase, and that is where it gets critical, and that's devaluation. Because during this phase, they start devaluing you. That's where you start seeing that person starts insulting you, or there's a incessant bout of rage. You know, like someone just comes home, you say, darling, wake up. Why did you call my name? I've had such a hard day and I'm just coming home and then you just want to greet me. You're greeting me for what? Inexplicable. You don't have any reason why this is happening. You know, people start making demeaning comments. See me, I took you out of the gutters. They start weakening your sense of self, you know. You're lucky to have me. They start lying. You start seeing certain things that you didn't see in the first phase. During this devaluation phase, we as individuals in these relationships, that's when you get out. That's when what Miss K is saying. That's when you get out. Because in the next phase, they discard you. That's the discard phase. The next phase is a phase where they start withholding emotions. That's where Lizzie, that's why financial abuse starts happening. That's where they start isolating you from people, you know, and that's when they start using people to abuse you, which we call flying monkeys. So they would use your friends, use your family members to, this girl a bad girl. Suddenly even your own siblings are saying, no, he called me and he is right. He called me, talk, say da. Or even your own close friends are telling you, they discard you, and they do not discard you alone, right? They discard you with your family and friends around you, and then they destroy you. That's the fourth phase. The fourth phase is really destruction. And destruction is that you don't have your self-esteem anymore. You don't have the financial wherewithal to live. You don't have the societal support. You don't have communal support. You don't even know yourself anymore. You're destroyed. But guess what? The last phase is not even that they leave, but it's that they hover around you. And why do they hover around you? Because you are their supply.
Okay.
You are their supply. And so in all of these phases, right? In all of these phases of emotional abuse, as I try to put it, we in our society, we have a role to play. One, we have to be non-judgmental. A woman or a man leaving a home doesn't mean that that woman is broken, or, this thing that we say, the broken home. Right. Guess what? I believe that there are a lot of put together broken homes. A broken home is when each person in a house that constitutes a home is pursuing their own goal, doing their own thing, devaluing each other, destroying each other, but they stick together for whatever reason. And guess what? You're passing it on to generations. You're passing it on to your children. A broken home is not someone who decides to leave, to grow emotionally, to find themselves, to regain strength. That is not a broken home, because this person will pass on emotional strength and really emotional stamina to their children.
Right.
So we need to stop judging. We need to stop criticizing. How many of us in our society that we live today, how many of us would we say, if someone comes to me and say, oh, I'm having a problem with my husband, and it's this, guess what we would normally do? You turn the story to you. You say, if na me, hey, John, do that thing, master. If na me, guess what you're doing to that person who is going through emotional abuse, who has lost their self-worth? You are again invalidating that person, because you're telling that person that that person is doing wrong. You're telling that person that
they don't have the
you don't have the guts.
Yes.
You don't have the guts. And so that person in the house is devaluing them. They come to you and they talk, and you don't mean it that way. You're just like, if they talk for you, so in a mere, guess what? You're devaluing that person further.
Right.
Right. So and then
you are thinking that you're standing up for them in doing that.
You're not. We need to understand that when someone crosses the threshold of intimacy and comes over and talks to you, you have that grace to hold space for that person's story. Right. You have to hold space for that person's story.
I have to raise my hand involved after you.
Don't get involved. Let that person's story be their story. And then the last thing that I want to say is we need to, I don't know how we're going to do this, and this is something that pushes me every day, every night. We need to educate our society. We need to find a way to form a supportive society, supportive community. Because if a woman or a man wants to leave an abusive relationship and they're deterred by thinking, oh, I don't know where to go to, if they have a supportive background, they know that the people behind them, they will leave. Right. So we need to create a society that supports people, enables people to fall back on us as cautions, so.
Yes, and that's the reason I was raising my hand there is about that validation thing. I learned to do that. I keep going back to the teaching thing and saying the fact that you are looking at the thing. First of all, I'm much older. I'm looking at the student there. They're 16, 17, 18. And I know that, look, this person you're crying over, that's not even any person you're likely to marry down the road even. This is just a little thing. But the kid is a big deal. Mama, So I learned this, the kid comes and they left to go to lunch. They looked really happy and bubbly. They've come back crying. And then, okay, I'm like, what's going on here? And they tell me, because I used to see the boy come take her to go to lunch and bring it back and stuff. They went and he broke up with her at lunch. Can you imagine? Just dumped like that at lunch. So she comes back and she's crying. And I had always observed, because I stand at the door, that girl was a A1 kind of student, sharp little girl. This guy, I don't want to call anybody's child good for nothing, but that is kind of close to riffraff kind of a thing. And I already wasn't liking, I'm observing her, I can't say a thing, was already not liking that thing I was saying, that relationship. When she comes and says that he dumped her, I was like, ready to go, hallelujah, praise the Lord. That was what I was ready to do. But I realized this big cry, I said, kata cry. It's not the thing to do. So I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry, bro. Give a big old hug. Go find the Kleenex. Found the chair. Let her sit outside and get herself together and validate that thing. In my eyes, I'm going, praise the Lord, praise the Lord. This is the thing. Yeah, but you can't do that to the child in that space and tell them, now which kind of blah, 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 that's not helping. That's where they are. A few weeks down the road, when they really figured out themselves that please, that wasn't anything I should have been bothered about. It's a different stage. There's a thing called meeting somebody where they are and trying to work with them there, as opposed to where you think that they ought to be and getting impatient with them, because it doesn't help that person. But then the next thing though then is, what are the deal breakers? Because you see, we don't want to come across here as people who are saying, they're vexed for married, carry a bag, go. The man, he snores too much, carry a bag, go. Just whether would you not buy mama me, whether would you carry a bag, go. Because that's now what some people are going to interpret this as. They're saying, so now you who shelters the person that left, oh, you are the person who's helping them to go there, because they know so they will come up for their house, can't be for you. The whole of his family or her family is saying, you are the one opening the place for them to come and stay, and you dare be single as you're doing that. So see that. You don't want me happy for your own marriage, you don't open your house, you can't remember that to be single. Like, it sounds like single is a curse. So it's, yeah, that's the whole idea. And Lizzie was going to say something about that.
Actually, I wanted to speak on the community, what we can do.
Yes.
But I want to start by saying, anybody who's watching this or listening to this, if you are in an abusive relationship, number one, it's not your fault. You must realize that you did not do anything wrong, because nothing you will ever do warrants another person to put you through abuse, regardless of the form. Number two, in-laws, stop supporting and protecting nonsense. If your child is married to someone and you can see very clearly that your child is abusing that person, you can step in and make things right. Sometimes people get away with abusive behaviors because nobody calls them out. And if family members start calling them out, intervening the right way, making sure they know that what you're doing is wrong, and the next time you lay your hand on your wife again, we are going to be the ones to call the police on you. You see that factor of shame. Abusers don't like to be called out because it brings shame on them. And sometimes, not all the time, sometimes the moment they realize that you are capable of speaking up, they stop. Because they always want to be seen as this perfect, protective person. So the moment they feel like they're going to lose that, they change behavior. And as a community, so I talked about in-laws, now as a community, for those of us who are abuse detectives, police officers, it is not your place to ask questions, but there are ways that you can support someone you know is going through abuse. Sometimes just listening is good enough. When I listen to these stories, and I listen to a whole lot of them, number one, I assure you, nobody is going to know that we had this conversation. And in truth, nobody ever knows.
So they feel safe.
My husband never knows. Because I don't trust him with another person's story. I will listen and just listen. My next question will be, how can I help you?
Correct.
Because if that person is not ready to leave, you cannot make them leave. But when you ask them, how do you feel? When they express, and I had to learn this, when you ask someone, how do you feel? And they tell you, I feel so humiliated. I feel lost. I feel like I don't even know myself anymore. I feel like I want to die. And sometimes they will tell you, I don't even know how I feel anymore.
Yes.
They've gone
Then you
numb.
ask them,
They've gone numb.
how can I help you? They'll tell you, I want to get out. I want him to change. I just need somebody I can call and talk to. Do you know resources that can help me? So as a community, we can do that. But most importantly, I really want everybody to understand that when we raise awareness, we should all raise awareness as a community, whether it's your lived experience, whether you're versed with it or not. If I'm presenting a show or an activity to the community and 4 people show up, we're telling a victim of abuse, someone who's going through abuse, that is not an important topic. That Lizzie and I Zoom to palaver abuse. Now everyone they be slap at time if you get a boyfriend. Now wait till man go drink water for Sunday, Zoom call. And what you're saying is this is not a relevant topic. You don't need to. But if we come out as a community, every time we hear conversations on abuse, activities on abuse, and you show up, perpetrators are watching.
Oh, yes.
People are learning things. They'll catch you small time, some more change.
Yes. That zero tolerance thing, you're not going to be comfortable with it. We're not going to sit here and look the other way. Or worse still, say, okay, it's fine. It's going to be make you uncomfortable in that behavior. Shame you into doing the right thing if we need to. Instead of sitting down there and saying it's okay. Once you see the person with the eye, you say, but wait till you be talk for that man before that man did that. Like you could say what? Yeah? We know you that sharp mouth. He surely called talk for the man, then the man before the man slappy. Which is the thing I'm supposed to that warrants that kind of behavior. How can you justify somebody hitting somebody else? I can understand being provoked. When we go to the law, go and say that you shot somebody because they provoked you and see how do you get free, you go scot-free. What judge is going to let you do that? When you go, you stab somebody, open your mouth in front of the court and say, well, he called me a name. He gave me the finger, so I stabbed him. It will not hold water there. It should not hold water with this kind of person. We don't settle our scores with our fists and with those kinds of things. We talk, we dialogue, and that kind of a thing. And if you get to a point where you just don't see eye to eye, instead of sitting there in that toxic relationship, that's when we're talking about saying, okay, because I have seen situations where the people parted ways, but then get along very well or reasonably apart and co-parent than if they had stayed there in that same thing and then it was getting volatile. Somebody was going to lose their lives at the way it was going. And but people still say, stay there, you had the thing, you made those vows, stay in there, and then one of you may not be living before long. As opposed to people saying it didn't just work out. And I have learned to see the difference too between a bad companion, a bad spouse, and necessarily a good father. The person takes great care of his kids are tight. He didn't just get along with mommy for some reason. There was something there, either stuff that we know, we don't know, but for some reason things didn't just work out well. And then it doesn't mean that the guy is not good, he loves his children. And then that's where some of us come now with the one of you said it about with choosing children to control the whole thing. I'm not going to let him see his children. And you're hurting the child that way because the child had no problem with the fact that was never ever abusive to those children. But it was abusive to you. You're angry at him, and so you're going to punish him by saying, see them. You cancel every the day that they're supposed to have the shared custody thing. You've just gone to Cancun, can carry the children with you. And then the thing is, invariably those children grow and know the difference and blame you, which is what you don't realize. The one that came from our dad. So it can be a tricky thing. This whole what part of it is minding my business, meaning between man and woman, no put your mouth. That's what the young sang and said now. Between man and woman, don't put your mouth in there. I remember when we were growing up, my mom, you should hear that scuffling. She's looking for her dressing gown thing to tie and go. And my dad is like, where are you going? There's that big chaotic thing that you're going to catch a flying slap. It's going to fall. It's like, so you want us to sleep? And we're hearing this thing going on there and we do nothing. That's what is going on there. Let me go and let the man stop, you know. And she used to be that kind that wants to go and do something about it. And the rest of us say, well, stay in your corner, mind your business. And if something happens to you there, because here in Cameroon, it was just the fist fight thing. Here, people are armed. So you're saying, let me go there now. Then this flying thing that was meant for this. So I'm going to be in the casket there. They're going to come and sing Peace, Perfect Peace on me there when it was not even my thing. We have lots of things that make us not say, just wash your hands. And I do not know, finally, what even is the real right thing to do, which is where I was coming to both of you that are in this JLU thing I'm wearing here thing. What are our options? What is the thing reporting? What is the person fleeing to you? What you tell us now, the how to cope thing. What are the options available to women in these situations and to the community?
Sister Egbe, before we talk about what we can solve, you mentioned it, Lizzie also mentioned it, about the idea that somebody would change. You know, what concerns me is that oftentimes we assume that we are capable of making other human beings change. Most people change because they've decided to change for various reasons, including the fact that the consequences of their behavior are no longer tenable. The community will no longer tolerate or support or turn a blind eye to their behavior. But ultimately, the change is personal. The perpetrator has to decide to change. And change is not something, you don't just change your habits in a flash, right? It takes time. So I'm saying this to any victim out there, re-emphasizing what Lizzie already mentioned. One, it's not your fault. But two, I'm begging you, please, you are not capable of changing any other human being. If you are a perpetrator and you're watching this, please, there is help out there. Find it and get yourself some help. And for the victim, it's totally understandable if you cannot stay in there while that person is changing, because they're not going to snap out overnight. It's a long process to retrain yourself to respond differently to your environment and to other human beings just being themselves. But there's help out there, whether you're the perpetrator or the victim. But the idea that you would sit here and change someone, or that person would magically change, that's not, it's not your responsibility. It's just not a thing.
Holy Ghost fire has been given too much clout. No, poor Holy Ghost fire that can do. See, that's not the kind of thing that you're going to do. Just go, and you're even going to the church by yourself. Oh, not that you carried him for the host for somebody to fall on him too. You just went there by yourself, and you're going to count on the Holy Ghost fire that you got there to come and do a thing, and then you have a one black eye. You're still doing that until you lose both eyes, and you're still doing that. Look, no.
Yeah.
Point well taken. Point well taken.
Sister Egbe, I just want to remind everyone about what a healthy relationship looks like. You know, and if anything, this could be our North Star on what we want for our children, what we want for ourselves, what we want for our spouses. And maybe people who are listening, be you a perpetrator or be you the abused, maybe this will help you. So at the center of every healthy relationship is equality. Really, it is equality. Equality is the core. Every relationship is a partnership. It means that you bring, I bring, we form an entirety. You know, that is the core, equality. And then there is also economic partnership, meaning, you know, like Lizzie said, financial abuse, economic partnership, there is fairness, there is respect, there is trust and support, there is honesty. There is shared responsibility. I cannot underscore this enough. There is shared responsibility. If we're equal, to be honest, there's something that Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie said that something in the lines I'll paraphrase, like cooking didn't come pre-installed in a vagina.
Right.
You know, cooking skills didn't come pre-installed.
That is such Chimamanda,
you know,
Chimamandaism right there.
Exactly. So there is shared responsibility. There is non-threatening behavior. Non-threatening behavior, meaning when we talk, we converse. Communication means that there is a back and forth. It's not one person talking, one person listening. It means that we're both talking to each other. It means that there's no fist exchanged. It means that there's no negative words exchanged, but it happens. And if it happens, there is the apology, and an apology means that I'm taking accountability for what I did. I identify what I did. I identify the impact, even if it wasn't my intention, because intent, you know, doesn't negate impact, you know, like Miss K said. So I identify the impact it had on this person, right? I take accountability for what I did. And I've mentioned measures on how to change. That's a good apology, you know. So there's no threatening behavior. And if you do have children, there's responsible parenting, which means that there is not withholding one child from another parent. We're both responsible. Remember, equality, shared responsibility. So, and then fairness. So you want to be fair. I want to do to you the things that I want to be done to me, you know. So, and that said, I just want to really put that out there and just say, if you are going through any form of abuse, like Lizzie said, it's not your fault. Like Miss K said, you cannot change people. Like I will say, and I want to underscore this, there is therapy. Therapy is your friend. Be you an abused, be you an abuser. Therapy is your friend. And then the last thing I want to say is there is no finishing line in healing. Healing is a continuous process. It's an ambiguous process. It would, sometimes you would feel like you're completely healed, and sometimes you would feel like you're just beginning to get healed. But healing is a continuous process. So whatever we're doing, let's do it with humanity at the core of whatever you do. Please, let's be humans.
You know what caught me there? That's, I'm like, oh, that is it right there. I like the way that you did this. When I'm saying, what are the deal breakers? You say, okay, instead of saying, if he hit me, then I'll do that. If he does this, then I'll do. Yeah, it's just saying, this is what a healthy relationship looks like.
Yeah.
That's not what you're getting. You are not in a healthy relationship. Something needs to be done. But one word that you mentioned and what you said just took me back to, therapy. You know which African man, so straight out of great support, they just say therapy, go and sit and see the shrink is really going straight out of Bisangabang, and which kind of place there's going to do. We don't do it. Talking about even relationships, so just like the therapy, you yourself just have your things, you're going through stuff, you're as single as ever going through stuff. They say just go talk to somebody to get the thing out. No, grief, even grief, that has no, it's not supposed to carry any stigma with it, you know. You lost somebody, it wasn't your fault, so you really are going through pain. And they're saying, go see a therapist, go through this thing. They're like, that on a white man thing them. Like we are born emotionless. We don't have us any emotions. We just don't go. So that is the thing where I'm like, what can, let's just make the appeal right here now, please. Therapy is not some far-fetched thing for people who, because once some people hear therapy, it all decreases. Nobody wants to even admit that they go to therapy, or even that any person that they know, like you're saying, my kids are going to therapy. Hey, You're a failed parent.
Mm.
You're supposed to fix that thing as a parent. You're supposed to talk to your child and heal him out of the thing. So somebody please put a case for therapy out there. Go right ahead.
And I just want to say that we have to really deconstruct a powerful man. You know, we have this image of a man needs to be stoic, a man needs to be untouchable, a man needs to not be vulnerable, a man is not supposed to have emotions, a man is not supposed to cry.
They tell them, be a man. And when they say that,
Be a man. Why you behave like a woman? Why you behave like a woman? Guess what? Just that puts men, if imagine, I just talk about it and I just feel like, you know, I have this huge boulder of emotions in my chest that I cannot let out. Guess what? I will explode. I will let it out with a vent, you know, and it might be a fist or negative word. So please, and this is my plea to men out there, you are human. You are human. And which means that if you have emotions, which you should have, you know, you get hurt, you're vulnerable, you give love. I mean, guess what? The biggest vulnerability that we don't acknowledge is a man asking a woman out.
Yeah.
Putting your heart out there to go
rejection.
chase a woman and then come back, the continuous chapeau they give them. The continuous chapeau they give them, and they have to go back and wipe their tears and say, he banked me, he banked me.
In my class, I believe this was to racket, just racket you.
They just give me chapeau, they won't give me chapeau. That rejection takes a toll on you, it plays a role. So I think that we need to acknowledge that you as a man, you don't need to be strong. I don't expect you to be strong. And I think a lot of women do not expect you to be strong. We need you to be vulnerable. We need you to be supple. We need you to be pliable. We need you to grow. If you're strong, you're stoic, you are set, you don't grow. And growth doesn't stop until we die. Growth takes us right to the day we close our eyes. So let's continue to grow emotionally, you know, and grow as humans.
Right. It all boils back down to, as I'm listening to you and nodding and nodding and nodding, it's the whole, we really do have to do that mental shift, change the whole way of looking at things, because we are told that the man is there, he's going to be the head of the household, the head of the responsible person, be strong for the, and so that burden that you've gone and put on them, sometimes what we are seeing is the lack of what to do with those frustrations that are being internalized and suppressed, because showing them means you're weak. That is what we have said to them. You show them, it means you're weak. So he's been at the office all day and been screamed and yelled at by his boss, who's probably a woman. He has come on back there now. Guess who? He didn't dare say a thing to the woman. So now he has come back to his coco. What they call the Bobby logo. Come back to you then now. And you are the ready person, the easy target. So he's screaming at you there. You're like, my goodness, what did I do? But he was driving home and like waiting for whom he can come and vent to. And so you're the one getting all of that stuff there. But if we made it known that if you now, he was sure that if he came and said, that is a work today be bad, you know, I could not blah, 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 and then you would listen and not say, I beg, which kind of man this? You yourself, exactly. Then that would be, that's the thing. We ourselves have also helped to buy into the whole thing and said it should be the strong person. So I've seen men who, they got the pink slip. 2 weeks ago, he has come in, the next morning, he still carry a briefcase, pass by them to drive, go walk. There's no work he's going to. Because he knows that if he tells you, hiya, and you are the kind of person too who is like, so where's my weave going to come from? That's the first thing. So where's my sister going to come from? You put all of that pressure on the man, so he's not about to even tell you something as intimate, as heartbreaking as I lost my job today. You're supposed to look at yourself and say, Mommy, you try. If you have a spouse that cannot tell you that for 2 weeks, and then you find out whether whatever the friend comes to visit and says, where I just can't work out with my friend as well, and you lose the job. You're like, what? He lost his job. He hadn't told you. So the things that we should check ourselves and say, hey, you're not that soft. Because she said we need it to be malleable, we need it to be soft and vulnerable. Then Mommy's spouse too, then, or Oga's spouse, you need to be that person that will receive the softness and the thing and validate it, and not tell the person lele, like she's just said, you're calling him that.
The thing is everything you're saying, Sister Egbe, and what Dorothy you were saying earlier about the construct, I think it really comes from the way. So what do we even think marriage is, right? Because it's sounding to me more and more like that's where this is going. Like what is marriage? And if we look at our parents' generation and all of them, yes, it was an institution where I would come and then we'll raise kids and you know, make a home for ourselves, feed ourselves, and so on and so forth. And we act as if there's no emotions involved in that entire process.
It's just
right?
a contract. You pay fee.
Yeah, it's just a contract.
I will feed them the alphabet.
Exactly. But it's not quite that way. And so if we now learn that and try to let our kids know that a marriage is really it's a partnership between, and because we live in a society where there's polygamy, and even if there were polyamory, at least I'm not aware of in Cameroon, but I know that there's some African communities that practice those type of things. So basically, in my mind, marriage is between two or more adults, but it's something which they willingly decide they want to do and want to be a part of. Okay, they're not coerced or forced into doing it. It's something that it's a lifestyle choice that because marriage is a lifestyle choice. It's, in my opinion, it is not a certificate to be, it is not an achievement. It is a lifestyle choice. And that lifestyle choice is something that the community at large appreciates, and legally constructs have been put around it, like property and all whatnot, for administrative or whatever purpose we want to say. But the people who are in it still need to interact. They have emotions. They still need to build it into what they want it to be. So just going by the textbook check, it said this, you know, sometimes it may, you know, not work. So I normally like to say, okay, let's just look at it. You know, if you know, the religious people, oh, love your neighbor as yourself. Maybe that's a good place to start that loving. What would you do to yourself? So you would see somebody will come. They know how to maintain their friends. They struggle with their partner, because they don't see their partner as their friend. How can someone with whom you are sharing the most time, you do not know they're not your friend? How can that even be? They have to be your friend. And how are they going to be your friend? The way you talk to them, the things you do for them, even the gifts you give them. I know that in our African society, we have somewhat just, or if you watch these movies, the Nigerian movies and everything, it's like the man's only responsibility is to give gifts to his wife, expensive gifts, then that's it.
Just
that's not it.
Like, darling, the keys to the car.
It's not that. There's a relationship between you. How do you talk to them? How much time do you spend together doing stuff together? How much time do you spend sharing the responsibilities of your lived experience? So we both wake up in the morning. We sleep on the same bed. It is not my job to make the bed. It is our job to make sure our bed is made and the room is clean. Now, I may like to make the bed, so maybe it's me who's doing the bed, but it's not my job. I would expect the other person who is not either able to make it or does not care to make it to appreciate my effort there in making the bed. You first to cook, go ahead and cook. There's no such thing as it's only me who has to cook because I'm female, I'm this and that. No, if you like to cook, by all means do. And me, who now, that's because if I were living by myself, I would have to make meals for myself. Now that I'm in a partnership, this other person is helping out with that. The least I can do is make them know I appreciate that effort and say thank you. And that goes to everything, the laundry, if you have kids, taking care of the kids, or the responsibility of taking care of each other when you are sick or need something, the thoughtfulness of those things, spending time, having fun with each other.
Thoughtfulness. The set of languages, that's mine. That's my
thoughtfulness. Enjoying each other's company. So it's not only about inside the house. We need to enjoy with each other. I need to be able to have a good time with you. Let's go out together. Let's do things together. So it's not that I have you, I will do everything here. But if I need to go and enjoy myself, I need to go and be with my friends. Because in that case, it doesn't, no, you do have to go sometimes and be with your friends. That's important. But if all the time you cannot, the only way you can have fun is with your friends and never with your spouse, it right there means your spouse is not your friend. But your spouse is supposed to be one of your friends, not your only friend.
Right.
But one of your friends. So you're supposed to have made room for them to also enjoy with them, but keep time and space to enjoy with family, with friends, and other people that you used to know or would want to know over time. But it doesn't, if you find, in general, as a rule of thumb, if you just find out that you are cutting yourself off, or you are responsible for cutting somebody else's spaces off, clipping their wings, as we like to say, then maybe you are the problem. Right? So if I'm the one, so for instance, if I find that, even just listening to this talk, if you're listening, please, and you realize you need to know everything about your spouse, you need to tell them what to do, when to do, how to do, it's very important to you, otherwise you will not feel comfortable, please seek help.
Right.
Because there must be some insecurity, some issues that are being triggered for you, and you're going to need help and tools to learn how to deal with it so that it doesn't negatively impact your relationship.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then to the person who's the victim, please seek help. I know that actually both perpetrators and victims in our African community, like you were saying, Sister Egbe, therapy. Which therapy? That one a white man thing. I know they therapists are trained people who understand all these different behaviors. They're able to elicit. The therapist doesn't tell you what to do. It just allows you to actually go through your emotions, process them, and decide now what to do. They just guide you in that. Some of our pastors and priests have been trained in that, but oftentimes we will go to them, or we go to other family members. You are lucky if you would go to another family member and they're able to do it, right? Oftentimes, it's hard for them to, not because they don't want to and they don't love you, but sometimes because they love you, that detachment that's required to guide may not be there. You understand? They love you, so they're going to be judgmental.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
So
they are a relative, so they have a stake in the.
They have a stake in it. Exactly. If I'm a relative,
give an unbiased.
Exactly.
The same way a medical doctor doesn't necessarily treat his own family member. Go do surgery on your own wife or your own child. They don't. They're competent, but no, there's something there.
There's something there.
And I can't do it and do it like I would normally do it.
Exactly. So please don't be afraid of therapy. Therapy is there to help you, is there to help us. And the more of us that we see therapy as okay, we do have psychologists amongst us. We do have Cameroonians in our community who have done this. But because of the stigma as a community that we have, they're not able to even reach out in our own communities. Right. They are forced to help people outside of our community, which doesn't really make sense, right? We need to leverage those resources because it helps. And you know what? It doesn't need to be a Cameroonian. If you're so uncomfortable with anybody being in your space, please, especially if you're living in the Western world, it's easy. There's help, right? They're very big about talking about the domestic abuse and all of that. They have hotlines and so on. And if you're not sure, call 911 and they'll guide you. But there's help. Now, to those listening who are back home in Cameroon, I am not versed with all the options that are there. I do know that there are activists there are people who are providing safe housing for those who need to get away from really bad situations. So sometimes they need to hide even here, right? You need to, it's a whole process. It's not easy. I know that there's some activists out there who have things like that, but I'm really begging everyone, this is something you've heard all the panelists say, please, let's not shame. Even if sometimes sometimes I feel if we shame the perpetrator, it will help. But let's give room for the perpetrator to own up to the abuse and then make good on their behavior, meaning improve, change. Let's hold them accountable so that they make those changes. Let's tell them we will not tolerate that. We don't need to see it. We don't want to hear it. It should not be there. That's wrong.
Boundaries.
Boundaries. We need to manage them.
If
And
they
then for our
give us
victims,
a restraining order against you, respect it.
yes,
Stick
let's
with
respect it. Let's not be the ones to say, wait now, wait till restraining order. I beg, you get for see picking them. Now waiting. If the law is saying there should be a restraining order, there should be one. Stalking is something that happens in our community and we don't talk about it. It is wrong. If someone don't tell you, say Abu, or say Pa, this will don't correct, it correct. Not be by force. If somebody tells you, I don't want this anymore, please respect them. And let it be. You may miss them. You are more than welcome to cry in your house and cry again and then call your friend and cry again. It's fine. There. But please don't go looking for them all over social media.
At their office.
Wherever they are, going to their place of work. That's wrong. That makes that, you are basically making that other person unsafe.
Right.
And that is wrong. It is a form of violence. Please.
That's entitlement as well. That's entitlement as well, because I believe that people, their spouses are what? Their property.
Oh, yeah, that.
The person who decides that they can just pick up your cell phone and go through it, just asking you what's your you have a password on your phone? Hey, no, I'm supposed to be able to run through the thing and look and ask you who is this person? Who is this one? Who is this one?
No.
Oh.
Lizzie wanted to say something ever since.
Sorry.
Yeah. So I can't help but laugh, and I'm losing my voice to my cough, but I totally agree with what Miss K and Sister Egwe and Dorothy. Dorothy, you did justice to what a good relationship looks like. So to me, that answers most of the questions. If someone is not getting what you mentioned, then there's something wrong. But I also wanted to bring this to the table. Most of the men we marry, we don't know them.
Yes.
We don't know their family history, especially marriages that are formed in the diaspora. We need to also realize that these men may be broken. From childhood, abuse is learned behavior. They may be broken, but you don't know because they carry this macho self and they do what they're supposed to do to win you over. But I caution women or men or women who date men, ask questions during courtship. Ask them, learn about their upbringing. What was it like growing up? Sometimes they will tell you, and there are signs that you will get. Repe beat Reme Sote, boy, no one catch my Repe. The man beat my Reme Sunday, and you're sitting there expecting that it will be different. But that doesn't mean you cannot help. Now, if you did not do your homework pre-marriage, excuse me, and you end up in a relationship, there is help. But you don't want to be the one to help. If you feel like your life is in danger, you have to leave and ensure that he gets the help that he needs. There is help. I know we have a community where people will tag you, they will shame you. That's why we have the National Domestic Abuse Hotline, where you call and somebody you don't know will listen to you. They will actually schedule sessions with you. They will talk to you. Sometimes they will help you get out to a place of safety. If you don't want to do that, find a trusted friend in your net, within your net, someone who can keep a secret for you. Tell them what you are going through. Even if you think your partner needs help, tell them that you have to get out. I'm saying this because I did a session with reformed abusers, men who were abusers. They decided they had enough of watching women go through pain because of them. And they decided to seek help. Now they are reformed, they're doing road shows, talking to other men. But I was curious enough to ask them, why did you become abusive? And most of them said, growing up, I saw my father beat on my mother all the time. And I thought it was okay. I thought it was normal. So when I started dating, I felt like the only way I could show the woman that I'm the man
I'm in charge.
was to beat her up, curse her out, make her feel low of herself, control her money. So we're dealing with people who are broken. How can we come together as a community with that understanding that the men are broken, the women don't know better, they're stuck in a situation. We all need to learn and deal with it.
We don't
It's
the
a
cycle
problem.
just to continue the cycle.
It's a problem. It's like what they call generational curse in the community. We have to find a way to break it and prevent it from affecting our children and generations.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And Lizzie, that I just have goosebumps when you say that, because, you know, in my case, I recall at some point I told myself, Dorothy, is this what I have 2 boys? You know, and I asked myself, is this what you want your boys to grow up doing? Is this how you want your guys, your boys to grow up into as spouses? Is this what you want them to perceive as this is normal for marriage? You know, and I told myself, no.
Right.
So the people who tell you that they stay in marriages, in abusive marriages because of their children. I left because of my children. I left because I wanted to create a different narrative for my children. I left because, just like Miss K said, that choice that we make to form a social connection, which we're terming marriage, is a choice. And a choice that I made, and a choice that I can recant. And so I can make a different choice, you know. And sometimes we just have to tell ourselves, it ends with me. You know, it ends with
the last person with this to have this cycle. So it's going to be
yes, this cycle, I take it all onto me. But I will be the barricade. It ends with me. It will not pass on through me to my offspring. It ends with me. And sometimes it takes courage, and sometimes it takes determination. But it is hard. There's no denying it. We're talking about emotional abuse. Emotional abuse doesn't end when divorce ends. You know, there's still post-separation. There's still post-separation abuse. There is still abuse perpetrated. We talk about people withdrawing their children or withholding their children from their spouses. When you co-parent in an emotional abusive situation, guess what? They utilize the children against you. But you have to strengthen yourself and teach your children, you know. So it's a whole different ball game. But I think you are now on the driver's seat on how this is going to play out. And you're not handing over your life to someone, you know, you're taking control over your life. And that is it. That is just it. We all need to take control of our lives. Yeah, nobody's supposed to live your life for you. And so don't give that right to someone else.
Right. And something that Ms. K had said really struck me about what do you even think marriage really is? Because there's some people for whom once it is up like that, it's like, I'm supposed to settle down and have children. That's what your parents said. Settle down and have children. They'll carry your name. It's your name to go forward. You're not thinking about the fact that this is this person. For some people, that's why it comes to a time when once something happens to the spouse, or it turns out that there is, let me call the terms, low sperm count here, difficulty with having children over here, there is absolutely no reason to ever be together again. For waiting. That means there was never any part like the two of you are supposed to come and be together. That is the it. Then children come, you thank your God for it. It was never that the case. To the point that that's why you come, you take your role, pay our fees. I do this one and do that one. And then the thing is, when the children now have grown up and have left the home,
So for
excuse me, hello, good morning. Who are you again? What's your name again? Oh, because I read like there was nothing going on here. We had our tasks to do, and it was all about how we raising these children. Let's figure out how to do. And it's
and at that, even Sister Egbe, even at that, right? That is a partnership.
Right.
You guys need to be cognizant of the fact that these are the rules of engagement in this relationship.
Correct.
We're here to procreate. That is a partnership.
That in itself.
We're here to procreate and ensure that we have people who will pass, who we can pass on our names to.
Right.
That is a partnership, but you need to be aware of why you're getting into that relationship.
Right.
So that
I actually have one. Have the relationship.
Yes.
And partner accordingly.
And that is, if you say that is the essence of our relationship, then let's be fair to each other. Let's build a partnership which is based on parental needs, right?
And let's think, like you said, shared responsibilities.
Yes, let's think about how we're going to do this thing and make it work, because we want to be the best parent. That is our deal. That is our deal, you know. And if you think that you want to have a marriage which is based on emotional connection, then have that marriage built on that emotional connection. If you think that the marriage is supposed to be, just a sexual connection, then let's have that sexual connection and then, you know, remove the other parts. But we need to consciously ask ourselves when we get into partnership, what do we want out of these partnerships?
Right. Both of you. I agree on both of you.
Both of you.
This is what I want. That's what you want. Then, okay, there we are. You want
both
A,
of you.
B.
Both of you.
That's where the conversations come in.
Yes.
Before that commitment. That's where it is we should teach our children to have these conversations before they commit to a relationship.
Exactly.
I also want people to know that
very important.
There's life after abuse. Don't get stuck in an abusive relationship because you think you're too old, you don't have options. Times have changed. People get married at 60, 65, 70, 45. So if you don't give yourself an opportunity to get out,
right,
you may not meet that man that is designed for you.
And
if I did not get out, I would not be married 10 years to a wonderful Bayangi man.
And it is okay. Can I just say, I am a single woman, and I release my solo being.
on your own.
I cannot tell you enough how much I enjoy it. You know, it is okay to be single.
Right.
We need to put it out there. It is okay to be single.
Yes.
It is okay to be on your own. It is okay to have that mentality that there is strength in you being alone. Being alone is not being lonely. I am never lonely, but I have chosen my solitude. I have chosen to be solo, and I know what I am looking for in a partner. If you don't meet my expectations, you don't see my time. My time is valuable. Me, I am a valuable entity. I'm a unique person. So if I give you my time, my space, my energy, my emotions, I'm banking on you to do the same. And if you're not up to it, then goodbye, adios, amigo. So we need to make it clear that it is okay. You know, there's this stupid notion of if you're not with somebody, I go on solo trips. I make decisions on my own. I make professional decisions on my own. I have grown in the past 5 years in ways that I would never have grown, you know, if I was still in my relationship, my previous relationships, you know. And so we need to take away this curse of singlism. There is no curse in being single. There's so much joy in it. We just are too afraid to explore it. And, you know, the moment you start exploring it, you see how much joy there is in it. Not everyone is supposed to get married. Not everyone is supposed to be in a partnership. Not everyone is meant to spend the rest of their lives with people, you know. So
unfortunately, that's not what we are taught. That's not what is what society has put there, which is why that stigma comes to the point of where you see somebody who is married and actually says, I don't want to see you there, a single friend. Single friend is supposed to be a contaminating person.
Like, hello.
Come and contaminate your positive married. And then
you mentioned something there. You talked about loneliness. Being in a marriage does not stop you from being lonely.
Thousands of lonely people.
There are thousands of lonely married people.
I think it's even the title of a Nigerian movie, Married but Single.
Yeah. Oh, there's something that I like to say, right? That in our community, we have a lot of single married. I usually say single married men, which also means that you have single married women. But you have a lot of single married men in our community, simply because, and I say this based on the way they live. If you are married and you find that the only person you are, because you have those people, they come, they will take care of the home, okay? They interact with their spouse. Well, actually, in fact, at home. And then they tell you, so I don't do all my thing now. Maybe me and you don't story about work, I don't do this. Okay, ma, go hang out now. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. 7 days a week. When it's time to hang out, they go somewhere else, they hang out, then they come home. And then when you talk to them, they're like, but their house, no, at their house. As car they come out. I be man at me house. If I know their house, it means I want to go enjoy myself. Listen to the language.
Right.
Why is it that in your, so everybody has 24 hours. All of us are experiencing the same 7-day week. Nobody's saying you have to hang out with your spouse all the time. But if you find that of 7 outings that you have, or let's even make it better, the arithmetic is simpler. Of 10 outings that you have, 2, your wife was present. Not that you even went with her. She was present because it was in Jangi or a christening or something.
That's why everybody has, each person has their own.
Exactly. And then even when you're there, you hang out now with your friend then. Please, I am begging you. You're a single married person because you are forcing your spouse to be single married because you're not having fun together.
Right.
So yes, it is very important to have fun with your friends and with your family. Very important. But it's just as important to have fun with the friend that you have picked to be your partner through this life.
Right, right.
It is very, very important because if I'm not having fun with you, if I'm not enjoying things with you,
your company,
your company is not gonna go very far.
And it's enjoying the company. That's the difference between.
It is sweet music that we cannot even stop talking. It's
just going on.
Incredible.
Yes, there's so much to unpack from the whole thing. People have you're looking at the thing and you're wondering, okay, which one finally is it? I'm thinking about our younger ones coming up who are totally confused based on what they see, or what they read, or what they see on TV. Because people say things like, he completes me. I'm like, Mommy, so what were you, half? You're walking around a half person and you're looking for somebody who's going to come and complete you. Don't you mean complement each other, meaning like with strength, you bring those strengths? If it's supposed a handy person, you the girl, then get on the ladder and change the light. And he can cook up a storm, like him cook the food.
Exactly.
That kind of a thing. And the whole idea of actually presenting a different picture from what you intend to be, I'm like, is for all the world, like that story. I don't know whether it was the same folk tale your own grandmother told you. Dingombe that went to go get married, and he borrowed this and borrowed this and borrowed this, showed up for the princess.
Yes.
For that picture. So on the way back, he gave the thing back. Finally got him. I'm like, who is this I married? So that's the thing you're going down with. I mean, it's like, hey, be real. Dorothy said it. Whatever it is that people have decided that you're going to be, this partnership that the two of you have decided upon, I hear you, you hear me. It's two grown people, which is why we're talking against child brides and things, because that child doesn't have any sense to decide. But you grown person, you're going to this is it. Just like people who have chosen polygamy, you went willingly into the thing. That's up to you. But by saying whatever it is, whatever is the deal that you made, that you went into, that is what it is that you're supposed to be respecting and doing, as opposed to now getting there and then you're out of it in a heartbeat because what your expectations were completely different. Marriage counseling is what Lizzie was, even if she did not use that term, it's what she was referring to before you go in. Because there you're thinking about, no, it's only like, oh, I've seen this dresser. Yes. this lace is doing this, they're tying that thing at the back, the zigzag thing that's being tied at the back, and you'll be on TikTok. I've not even got anywhere near what social media does to this whole equation. So we start that topic now, then at least earliest that tomorrow daybreak, that we will stop.
No,
about the power people hold over people and threatening them. I'm going to put these videos that you didn't know he took of you, he's going to put them out there. Oh, you will
yes.
Because if your auntie and your big mommy, they see that kind of video, they don't know that that's where you hey. So you sit there and you do, because they are bullying you with those kinds of things. The other day, and it's even scammers. Okay, our world is complicated.
Yes. Now, Sister Egbe, you touched on something Lizzie also mentioned, but I'm actually going to put it out there because people can go research it. I've done it. I did it actually 5 years into my marriage, because we got married first before we went to marry in church, and the church made us do it. But I tell everybody to do it. All my young nieces, nephews, young friends, when you just come and tell me, hey, Miss Keo, I don't see some man way. I say, Abu, I beg. My gifts I'll give you now. Something they call them. It's called Engaged Encounter. It's run by churches. It's across. It's non-denominational in the sense that you don't need to be a Christian to go through it. But there's a lot of like priests, like Catholic priests or Presbyterian pastors or so on, who actually run those programs. Please, it's worldwide. I am begging you. Go to an Engaged Encounter weekend. I did not say marriage encounter. Those are different things.
Right. You
have these programs. You have marriage encounter. I call that maintenance. There's something called retrouvaille. Retrouvaille is for the people who you're struggling. Sometimes you're already even divorced, but you still have you still have, you're either living in the same community or you have kids to co-parent or things like that. Then I would advise you to go do retrouvaille. Retrouvaille just helps you learn where your trigger points are and how to better communicate, so you can meet. And some people go there and find their marriage wasn't so bad after all and remarry. But Engaged Encounter is the best gift you can give yourself, because they walk you through the different things which maybe you have not been listening, or you did not know that you are with your partner. You have to be asking questions. It's only by asking questions that you understand what marriage means to them and what they're looking for, and how you two are going to navigate it, and how you are going to navigate the different things that come with living life. What if one person gets sick? What if one person gets disabled? What if I cannot have kids? What if I want to become, let's say I become an atheist? What if I decide to go join a different church? They help you go through. What if a parent gets sick? What if we have to help a sibling? What do we do with in-laws? How do we manage our money? They help you go through all those different things, so you can decide for yourself what you want in your marriage. Exactly.
Makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. So I encourage everybody out there, please, if you're not yet married and you've met, please don't stop using, by the way, the word, what Sister Egbe just said here, completes me. Nobody completes you. Okay. You're a completely formed person. God took time to make you, but you found somebody with whom you would want to share the rest of your life, and you feel fantastic about them. Great. Please Google up Engaged Encounter and find a place near you and attend, and make it a point. It's an investment. You see how most young people, you want to get married, you invest in a honeymoon. I am begging you. It's a weekend. It's not even, it doesn't really cost much. They barely even, it's really run using donations and things. They barely ask you to cover some of the cost of your weekend, because it's for a weekend. But some people go there and realize that marriage is not for them.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Okay. Everybody doesn't have to be married. And even if we all have to be married, I don't have to marry this person sitting in front of me. And that's fine. And that's why I am begging you.
You're better off going through the little heartbreak, the chagrin now, than how many years down the road?
Years down the road.
Minus one of your ears and one of some of your teeth.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm just going to, sorry, Ms. K, I'm just going to speak to something that you're doing now, and that we all are doing. And that is, that is those of us who grew up in my generation, so those of us about the same age, we grew up with this illusion about marriage. There's this fairy tale about marriage. Marriage completes you. That's where this completion. It's like marriage is the next step of achievement, right? There are people who plan their lives according to when they will get married, you know. So this is something that those of us who are married or have been married, you know, we need to really peel the onion on the marriage table so that people have an understanding of what marriage is. You know, this thing that people just say, oh, marriage is sweet. Please, you know, let's really break it down for our children, you know, so that they have an understanding of what marriage is. And I also want to say that there's this fairy tale out there that, you know, I don't know if I should call it a fairy tale or if I should call it some kind of like structural conditioning. You know, when we look at fairy tales, we look at Cinderella, you know, it's like, in order to get married or to meet that special one, you need to jump, you know, some hoops. You need to go through some struggle. It's like we're normalizing struggle in relationships. Oh, it's normal.
So the marriage is a trophy.
You know, to make the marriage things like a sweet trophy candy kind of thing, you have to go through, you know, you get to go through pepper stone, they grind you fine, then you turn paste, then, you know, we need to break it down. You don't have to go through suffering to be happily married. You don't have
I
to.
think we even use the terms. I don't think we even realize them. See, that wife material, that. Okay.
Yes.
And that when they mean the wife material, is that okay? You just make cookie from scratch. You see, you soak up. You move the candle of the thing.
Yes.
That's what they mean when they say that the white material.
Don't grind you pepper stone. Not even water. Said they grind now pepper stone.
No blender. No blender. No. White material that's exactly what it is.
Yes.
We don't realize when we're saying those things to people. You are telling somebody who is a very valuable good person who cannot cook. Yeah. And that is the reason they are going to actually dismiss them and go buy the one.
Exactly.
It will be a hot achakasara before you know it.
Yes.
So those are the kind of things that we say and do and promote as the quote-unquote mother-in-law to be before you want to marry my Pikin. Come, spend 1 week. See how you handle how you handle the mokanjo, how you do. You have lots of mokanjo in that house, but lots of slaps along with the mokanjo. Seeing. You just prioritize a very different thing from what the thing is supposed to be. Your son that you taught to cook, he can cook. Right now, what's going to be wrong with it? But then the same us, as we'll go around in these circles and come right back, is the same us who will come in, catch our son that we actually used to cook. I came back from work and he had cooked. Now, why are you going to their house and seeing him cooking? Are you having a problem with it? What did you teach him to cook for? Only when he was cooking for you at home and being. Now he's there. His wife is doing something else. She probably has a project to finish. So she's out there doing the thing. Hey, why is he sitting down there too, who has some time on his hands and not doing the meal, saying she should finish her project and come and cook while you watch the Lakers? Why? Why?
Oh God.
No, it is just a whole hot mess. And then you now who are talking that you come and you see him doing that and you're going, my Pikin marry something. I reach for the. I see my poor Pikin did this thing. Madam did for you the work. Which work in the work? Nah. How do you expect the kid? So now, ding dong, the bell has rung. That is the boy that knows that his mother is coming. John lost the fire. Lost the fire on another pot, and it's going to sit because his mother is going to come and have a problem with it. No. And then you don't realize that you are contributing to the problem.
Yes. We need to be very careful. We really need to be very careful. You know,
we can do better. Let us try to do better. But I don't want us to end this without talking about. I don't know, sit down sweat inside this my hoodie for no reason.
I get my own.
Yes, this JLU, you see that. I'm sure you can see it behind Dorothy there. It says JLU. I just have the old logo. This is the upgraded and more civilized logo is what they have there. Please, Lizzie, talk to us about what JLU is. The thing that goes with it, it says, just, is it still that though? Just like you, global?
Yes, it's still just like, yes. And
what is it?
My voice, I feel like my village people are behind me today.
Don't worry, they're not this is the kind of thing that Holy Ghost fire can fix.
They don't want me to speak. So, Sister Igwe, you know, I started this thing by sharing my story. And because I could share my story, I realized many women around me shared my story or had the same experiences. So I decided to create Just Like You Global Foundations, Just Like You, because I want everyone to be reminded that I am just like you and you are just like me. We have blood running through our veins and we deserve love and respect. We create a lot of awareness on all forms of abuse. I really spend much of my time doing two things: working on prevention activities. And when I say that, it's because I have a signature program, the One Girl, One Pad project. It is called Empower
One Pad.
One Girl, One Pad project.
Okay.
The reason I use this as a signature program is because I have access to young boys and young girls. That is my way of breaking that generational curse. We teach them about self-esteem. We teach them hygiene. We teach them self-confidence, and we slide in abuse in the conversations. Our goal is to prevent boys and girls from becoming victims of abuse. And we strongly believe that when you grow up knowing your worth, knowing your values, it is almost impossible for someone to tell you otherwise. When you grow up knowing it's okay to be single, it's okay to walk out on a relationship that doesn't serve you well, you will know that, okay, I can get married, but if it doesn't work out, I can get a divorce. I can be in a relationship, but if my partner is abusive, I can leave and it's okay. And above all, if I'm a teenager and I'm dating and my boyfriend treats me in a way that I consider abusive because it impacts my self-esteem, it creates anxiety and depression, I can speak to someone and I can get help. So we spend a lot of our time doing that, but we also spend our time talking to adults, encouraging people to speak up, encouraging the community to support victims of abuse, because it is very essential that people get help, both the abused and the abusers, right? So in Ohio, you would see that this year we had Mother's Day celebrations where we talked about the challenges of motherhood and how sometimes abuse impacts how we play our roles as mothers, right? We did Father's Day celebration where we congratulated men who are involved, who are engaged, and encouraged the men who are not, to let them know if you are not, because that's what you grew up knowing, realize that you're destroying your child that you love so much. We celebrated Family Day where we brought all the families together to talk about abuse and just create that awareness. We also had a very fantastic event of women's soccer in October just to raise awareness on abuse. So that's the work we do. And I'm calling on anybody who's watching and listening to my cracked voice because of my cough, that if you go to our website, www.justlikeYouGlobal.org, you will see our projects. And if you like what we do, we ask that you help us donate. You can help us expand our reach by donating. When you donate, we have money to call speakers, to pay speakers. We have money to create awareness. We have money to distribute pads and hygiene products to children, especially in Cameroon. I'm going to Cameroon in December just for that.
Excellent, excellent. And as she said, it's justlikeYouGlobal.org.
Yes.
just like you global.org. You know, these days, there's anything you can do is search instantly on your cell phone right there, just like you global.org, and go find it there. If you reach out to her, if you want to volunteer because you yourself have experience,
Yes.
you can share. Dorothy is doing right there, or you have actually some money that you can donate to help fund the thing. Sometimes people look at this thing and say, hey, you feel removed from something because maybe it's not your current situation. You never know, you may have a child, you have somebody coming down the road and you're like, oh, I wish I had done something about it. I was supposed to be here, not isolated people. You're supposed to really care what happens to somebody else, because we are all intertwined. This person you're saying don't care about, okay, that's probably who your little daughter that you have there, or your son is going to go find her daughter to get married to. And then wouldn't you wish you had done something to get them out of this thing before they found your daughter or your niece or somebody else? And even if it's not your own daughter or your own niece, it's somebody's daughter and somebody's niece that they're going to find. Bother you, what's going on there? It is, even if I mean, I can stretch it as far as possible, that you are the person sitting there paying taxes and expecting the police to come attend to you when you call for them. Okay, well, they're attending to the abuse thing that's over there. That's why your own house has remained there without the help that you called them for, because they're not attending to this problem. So that society is interwoven like that. Somebody's thing is not somebody's bad luck over there. Look at this one over there. The person, oh, their behavior is there, that banger smoke at them. When they come now, the banger smokers high and comes and breaks into your house and hurts you, you will not be so careless about the banker smoker over there. It will come back and come bite your own area too. So that whole idea of saying, waiting concern me for okra soup, these people's things, it really isn't. It really isn't. We're all interconnected somehow. The effects, if you don't want to do it out of just pure compassion, think about the fact that they may come knocking at your door any day. So the women that this happened to didn't grow up when they were born saying, I cannot wait to get into an abusive marriage. They too looked forward to getting into a happy home and everything. And then life happened. It's not their fault. Like Lizzie said, it's not their fault. You should care what happened about it. So,
and I must say, Sister Edwin, we've seen significant improvements in community engagement on the topics of abuse. From when we started to now, many people are starting to realize that it's something as bad as abuse. There's something called the silent killer, that is emotional abuse. People come to us, they bring their problems to us, we help them. So we are just encouraging. It's going to get better.
It will.
We cannot give up. We just need to keep the conversations alive.
That's exactly what you're doing, and I applaud you for it. Till it becomes, you just will get tired of seeing me just talking about the thing till it's there and you cannot say you did not hear it. So no matter, thank you for not paying attention to I beg every Sunday Zoom. Keep on doing the Zoom. One person comes, it's still one person more than would have not come before. One person gets helped, it's one more person less than has been saying before. And that their life matters. You made a difference for one person, it's still something. It's worth continuing to do what you're doing. I don't know anybody's movement, anybody's anything that worked without them continuing and persisting before it caught on. We now have ramps leading to buildings because somebody said this wheelchair thing that I have to be carrying me up the stairs in a wheelchair, how we can't do this thing. Till they said, nah, we're tired of it. Spoke, did advocacy and things. Now, any building they are going to build that is going to be public, you better get a ramp there going. Is somebody talking? It takes a good, serious bunch of jiggers, hamburg, get angry, fed up, roll your eyes, whatever, they just keep doing the thing. You either do it because you've actually seen the light and done it, or because you tire them, and do the right thing because you're just tired of listening. Whichever one gets you there, we're fine with it. We're fine with it, but you have to pay attention. It is there. We cannot keep just be quiet there all the time. Things are happening. People are suffering and suffering in silence. And they are made, the victims, to look like it's their fault. Be they female or male. And in this case, even worse for the male, because there's the double stigma for them, like, she slapped you.
Last year, I went to Tole for the PAD project, and I invited young boys. When they came, we spoke to them about menstruation and the role they can play to protect women. And I used basic examples like if you see a stain on a girl's dress, rather than call your friends, you can give her your sweater, your jacket, so she can wrap it around. It was very well received.
Mhm.
And the boys were the ones who volunteered to share the pads to the girls.
Right.
So they became my helpers, right? And we do this because we want boys and girls to realize that it's not only the work of the parents to instill confidence or love and protect one another. They have to do it from a young age. But when I saw those boys pick the pads, some of them were shy, timid. They smiled, they laughed. Towards the end of it, they were fighting to gather it. And they told me they just never realized that mocking young women was so dangerous.
Right.
They never realized it had consequences.
Yeah.
Now that they know, they are going to do better. They are going to be more protective of their girls in school. So
Correct.
that's the kind of work that we do.
Yes.
Can I just share one thing that I do with my boys? My boys are 9 and 13. You know, I started, teaching them, to be aware of, like their body parts growing, and also be aware of women, because both of them are showing interest in women, they're not showing interest in men. So I thought, okay, I want to show them, what to do, So one of the things that we do at home is they know when I'm having my period. So what do my boys do? They know when I have my period, I like chocolate. I like to drink my tea. They know I have my menstrual cramps. I will stay in bed some days. Guess what? My boys go to the local drugstore, they buy pad, they make tea, they put chocolate on a tray, and they bring upstairs to me, to my bedroom.
Right.
And I recall one of my friends was here, and she saw them doing that, and she started crying. And I was like, why? She's like, oh God, what you're doing is going to benefit one woman someday.
There is a person there.
You know,
and pray, Lord, send somebody which has
exactly.
done.
And so I'm normalizing it for them. I'm normalizing it for them to take care of me just as I'm taking care of them.
Right.
Right. Yes.
Right.
You
Going to the mall.
Patriarchy don't do we wonders. Because you know what? I can't help it. I go through my mind and I go, at least 50% of the world's population is women.
Yes.
There's no human being who does not know a woman. How is it that something that's natural to women is so taboo? Why is it that menstruation is such a... I remember even growing up, if you had to go buy, for a boy to go and buy pad.
At the time when it was called menses. That's what it
menses.
Menses.
And I'm thinking to myself, the same mommy where it was say, man picking over for menses. Her husband knows she's menstruating.
Yeah. But the babies that were born, they came
but her son should not know. So just imagine this. I would like to actually ask some boys, see, maybe it's a question I asked. When was the first time you knew that women menstruated, and what was that like for you? Because until you said this, Dorothy, my own boys are already big, but you see me and okay, for my house, as I feel when I hear them. And so I don't get not
they used to like, ew, mommy. I went to school, like,
but that's the thing.
How much I wear on any given day. And I'm walking by, they think I'm going to look for a thing to tie. I just will go.
Exactly. You want the extra step.
You
want the extra step, which, mine already grown, so too late for me. But that's something I'm actually going to tell them, because when you have girlfriends, be caring during that time, extra caring.
Be caring.
I used to make sure,
because all of us don't have.
Do I have to go? My sister said, do I have to go like to the mall with my daughter and I? I'm like, yes, you have to go. And they're unburied.
Yes.
Your girlfriend or wife is going to be shocked.
Exactly.
Go along with the thing and have no problem with it.
And have no problem.
Go and smile.
Yes. Yes. Yep.
And I do the things that and let them know it's not a thing. You're just wired differently.
Yeah. We don't change the topic, okay?
Because the thing that says, the sad thing with this domestic violence thing, right, is that it's multifaceted, and it's because it's domestic, it touches almost every aspect of our life.
Everything.
Right. So as long as, since we're not here in a formal, structured. Every now and then, Sister Egbe tries to bring us, okay, let's stay in this lane.
Sister Egbe is going off topic.
Yes,
very gladly going off topic. I have no problem with it at all.
Because it's a free-form discussion, we're just talking.
It's such a volatile topic. It goes everywhere, everywhere. It touches everything, you know. So I really love the way the conversation is going, to be honest.
But I want to give a shout out to, I went to PSS Bancon. That's the school that I went to.
Yes, me too.
Oh, you too? Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, so PSS Bancon.
And I have to say this. In my, at least my close friends, I won't call their names on here, but I want to thank them. When I started menstruating, and I was sitting with a boy, there were boys also in my back, but you know, the seat behind me in class, they would actually take their sweater off if I had stains, and
me too.
I would just know that I had stains, because by the time I'm standing up, the boy behind me would just hold his sweater up, and then the one next to me would just give it to me, and that way I just know that, okay, I have to go and change. We never ever talked about this. We never had a discussion about it. It just happened. And now that we're talking about this here, I'm just realizing, God bless them. I know them to this, I mean, they're my classmates, obviously, so that's why. But it's not something that we ever talked about or I discussed with them. They just did it. When they did that, I just knew that, oh, my dress is stained, I have to go to the dorm and things like that.
They're just having your back.
But they had my back. And we never talked about it, ever. So that, to me, just tells me that instinctively, humans in general tend to know what's right and what's wrong. They care for each other. Society puts all these other things, and if we normalize and we herald the bad things, they become typical now in our home. So we have to laud and honor, like those my classmates who we did not have any discussions, none of that. My dress was just stained, and it happened quite often. And they'll just hold up. So every time I wanted to stand for any reason, and the boy behind me who held something up, or if there's nobody sitting behind me, the person behind me just say, no, wake up now. Immediately, they don't have to tell me anything else. I just know, okay, I have to wait.
Yeah, just stay seated there.
But I can tell you, to this day, we have never, ever, ever talked about me menstruating, staining my dress. We have never had that discussion, ever.
Me too. And I told my kids, and I called, because I had this, it happened to me just once, and I had this one classmate who did that to me. And I told my kids, when I was trying to teach them what to do, and I told them, this is what happened to me in class. And there was this classmate of mine who stood up, and he did not hand his pullover. He took off his pullover, they wear this sweater there. He took it off, came over and wrapped it around me and tied it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And I said, that is a core memory.
Yeah.
That is a core memory. I can never erase it, and I can never forget this guy. I haven't spoken to him in years. But every time I hear his name, even we have like our exam forum, every time I see him writing, there's a smile that comes up, because it's a core memory for me. And so when I was trying to get my kids to understand what kind of safe space they create for women when they do that, I recounted this story, and they were like, oh, wow, yeah.
And one day they get to meet him, you're going to have to introduce you as the uncle who gave the sweater.
Yes.
So my children have a whole ton of them. I said, that's uncle, this is something. They're like, okay. I tell them the story. The uncle who helped me carry my suitcase. No, you see, it's those things. So we really are the core compassionate human beings. And we want to push that when, like you're doing, honoring these people for doing the right thing. The same way we're calling out people for not doing the right thing. It's not as if we just want to sit here and condemn. They're absolutely wonderful men out there. Lizzie herself has said it. She's been married 10 years, up to the Bayangiban there that she's been married to. So it's not a matter of just coming to diss everybody out there saying this, be it men or women. There are good things, but we're saying that has been rampant in our society, not spoken about, and that was the reason for having this show today. It has gone in every direction, and I'm not apologizing for any part of it. All of it was useful. All of it was fun to narrate, but it's not a funny topic. It's serious as life and death, because sometimes that's what the case is. sometimes we make a little light of it so that it can go down better. The pill can go down better, as opposed to sitting here and we all just cry because there's things to cry about and people who've lost their lives. But we are trying to see what we can do. And they've told you, what haven't they said? The telltale signs, personal experience, counseling that you need, therapy that you should go to, and donating to push these whole subject forward. So you have heard, I keep saying, you've heard, you cannot unhear this. You sat here and you listened, you've already heard it, you cannot say, no, I don't know, I had no idea. Now you already know. So you've identified yourself there as a perpetrator. Stop it now, Papa. Go get the therapy that they're talking about. Ask for help. And you will definitely find somebody who will not judge you, who would listen and find you the help. And if you are there all this time, you've been thinking, I don't know about this relationship I'm in. Maybe now the warning bell has come, has sounded for you. Don't ignore it again till something ends up happening. Little girl who's listening there, young guy who's listening there, stop looking for people to complete you. You are a complete human being already. Find somebody that you can enjoy life with, and to complement you, you put your strengths together. There's been so many lessons to let any man pick your own, take go. That is, it's pretty much what it is. And I would like us to do this again some other time in the future. When there's any program coming up that we're supposed to talk about, please reach out. Let's just go ahead and put it out there. I cannot thank you women enough. It's not as if you don't have things to do with your time. You do. Yeah, you have busy, very busy women. For you to take some of you are even coughing and not feeling too good.
And it's almost midnight here in Germany.
For you in Germany. Oh, sorry. Sister Egbe, don't do that.
No, this has been good.
But beloved, I loved it. Thank you.
We need
somebody
to do
with
this
a benefit
again. Beg voice come back.
It'll come back. It'll come back.
We need to do this again
when you're fully functioning at 100%.
Yes.
Now you're practically running on empty, but that's okay. You still put your message across. And so I thank you. So without much ado, like they say, all of you kind people out there, keep on being kind, donating your sweaters to cover people in many different ways. There's different sweaters is now a, what do they call it now? A key word, a phrase, just a phrase for what you can do to help somebody else. Be a sweater coverer.
Yeah.
Yes, for somebody. Let them remember you with the smiles I saw coming on their faces. You see them recalling stuff from way back and see the smile it still brings to their faces. So go out there and be somebody else's sweater person in whatever way you can find fit. They'll appreciate you forever. And just be good. That's about it. We're going to call it a day here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And my dear guests, wow, God bless you.
Thank you.